validate files, validate emails, things like that. All kinds of digital data.
Okay. As part of that, do you examine cell phones, specifically iPhones?
Yes, I do.
And do you examine computers, specifically Mack laptops?
Yes, I do. All kinds of computers.
Okay. And in this case, did you examine 2 Apple iPhone 4S's and a Apple laptop?
I believe I examined 1 phone and an Apple laptop.
Okay, can you go through a little bit, well, what's your education with respect to computer science?
Sure. Well, I started the first data recovery company in the United States about 32 years ago. I probably had the 3rd or 4th computer forensics business about 22 years ago. I mentor students in the computer sciences at California Polytechnic Institute. I wrote the computer forensics chapter in the textbook Scientific Evidence in Civil and Criminal Cases by Andre and Wensens, which is Moenssens. I'm currently authoring a textbook on computer forensics for a class at a college in back east. I'm a certified forensic examiner with through the American College of Forensic Examiners, and I do probably 10 or 20 hours worth of research every week for the past 30 years in my field.
In part of your examinations, what types of software do you use to recover, to pull data, extract data off of iPhones?
Off of iPhones, I use Katana Lantern Forensics. I use Magnet Forensics, Internet Evidence Finder. I also use a similar program by Magnet Forensics called Axiom. I use Access Data's Mobile Phone Examiner MPE+. In this case, I use Ncase by Guidance Software. In this particular case, I used Magnet Forensics, IDF, and Ncase for the most part.
Are you certified in Magnet and Ncase?
No, you don't have to be certified to use them.
Proficient with them?
I am. I've been using that. I've been using Ncase since version 2 about 15 years ago, and it's now on 8 point something, and I've been using Magnet Forensics largely since it came out. I was a beta tester.
Okay, you were a beta tester, is that what you said?
Yes.
Could you explain what a beta tester is?
Oh, when they're coming out with software, they want to bounce it off of, they want to have people use it who are practiced in the field so that it doesn't have quite as many errors when it actually gets released and sold to the public.
Okay, so when a program's in beta, you're essentially not just using it, but examining it and reporting back to the company what flaws there may be.
Exactly, and I have done one of their trainings. I mean, I have attended one of their day-long webinar trainings as well.
And I want to go back a second. You do, you said you were the first one in the country to do data recovery?
I had the first commercial data recovery business in the United States, yes.
Okay.
So I developed the methodologies.
All right, and that is, for example, well, correct me if I'm wrong, that is, for example, if your hard drive crashes and you can't boot it up, send it to someone like you and you can take the data off?
Sure. In fact, one of my first client was Bobby Brown.
The singer?
The hip hopper.
The hip hopper.
It was a 10 megabyte hard drive. If that means anything to you, things are.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Back when he was in New Edition, probably.
I'm not sure. It was actually for his manager, not for him personally.
All right, fair enough. Okay, and did you pull, were you able to pull pictures and data off of the iPhones and off of the iPhones?
Yes.
All right. Now, was there some type of problem with the laptop based on the drive and the way the drive was not mounted but attached to the machine?
So, by way of explanation, most computers have got a hard disk in them, which is a thing that plugs in, has a standard interface, it's got platters inside that spin around. It's a MacBook Air, this particular MacBook, and it has a soldered-in, memory-only, non-moving form of storage, which is harder to image, but it's still able to be imaged.
Okay. Are you familiar with something known as a SSD or a solid-state drive?
Yes, that's what I was sort of generally describing, an SSD, solid-state drive.
And while those are faster and easier, they can tend to be difficult to image.
Correct.
But you were nonetheless able to get data from that computer?
I was able to image it. Just the first 3 go-rounds, none of those worked. I was able to finally image it using I think I used something called Mack Imager.
All right, and there was some testimony earlier that the machine had been, I think, booted up while in your possession. What was the reason that you would have to boot it up?
Because I couldn't use any of the other methods I normally use, which include, I use something called a Tableau forensic imager, but you can't remove the SSD from the laptop without causing damage to the laptop. There's a program I use called Mini-DOS, Mini Disk Acquisition System. It works on about 95% of computers, but it didn't in this case. I hooked it up through a USB port and used a self-booting DVD, and I couldn't manage to image it with FTK Imager either as a target drive. So I believe I told Mr. Sue in advance I was going to have to boot the system.
Now, are you familiar with a term called either data integrity or file integrity?
Sure.
And that means that you're not changing, making changes to the data or files?
Right.
Did you, in fact, preserve the file integrity?
I did. There are a few things that change when you boot the system, including, for instance, a record of the system booting and of the last booting of the system. So out of the, I think there was I forget if it was a 250 gigabyte or 125 gigabyte SSD, but it's possible a couple of megabytes of it would have changed by booting the system, but none of the other files would have changed.
Okay. Did you intentionally delete or destroy any files?
No.
Did you we had testimony earlier about what unallocated clusters are. Are you familiar with that term?
Certainly.
Okay. That's when data gets deleted, but it doesn't leave your computer?
Right. Unallocated space on a storage device on a computer is an area that either hasn't ever been written to or that holds the remains of files that have been deleted. Yes.
Did you play around or disturb the unallocated clusters?
I did not.
Other than booting it up, did you make any changes anywhere, anyhow, to the data in the computer?
I did not. I booted it with the password that Mr. Sua sent me.
All right, man, just 1 second. Yes. Did you, were you asked by Mr. Sua to find a particular picture of, well, let me back up. Did you become, in your search through the computer, familiar with someone named Christine Mackaday or Christy Mack?
I became familiar by the name Christy Mack.
Okay, and are you able to identify her image?
In most of the images where she has a distinctive haircut, yes.
And tattoos?
Yes, the tattoo. She's got a little heart here.
Well, I'm just saying, you know.
And tattoos on her back and her arm and stuff. Yes.
Right, no, but I mean, if it's a picture of George Washington as opposed to a picture of Ms. McInday, you can tell the difference?
I think I would, in general, I'd be able to identify a picture of Christy Mack from what I've looked at, yeah.
Okay. Did Mr. Sua ask you to search for a particular picture?
He did.
And what was that picture?
It was a picture of Christy Mack in sort of a coral top, coral-colored shirt or top.
Were you able to find that picture on Mr. Copenhaver's phone or laptop?
Was not able to find it on the phone and laptop.
What's in evidence as states 153? What's going on here?
Well, I think someone turned
I
it
did. It was
180
my
degrees
fault.
earlier.
Yeah. Sorry.
Is that the rotate? Okay.
Yeah.
Just didn't want to start playing. All right. There you go. So this image is, are you able to identify this as Ms. McInday?
Yes, this is that person, and that's the photo I was looking for.
And you, I'm sorry, did you answer whether you were able to find it?
Yes, I did answer it, and no, I wasn't able to find it.
Okay. And I'm just going to go with a stack of photos. I'm not going to go through all of them. Well, actually, let me ask some follow-ups on that. If it was alleged this photo was sent to Mr. Copenhaver's phone, do you have a conclusion of whether it was in fact sent to that phone?
There's no evidence that it was sent to that phone on either the laptop or the phone.
Thank you. And likewise, you would have seen evidence if it was sent as a MMS, which is a picture message or video message, if it had text associated with it that said, "Look how much better my face is doing."
Yes, and I searched for some text associated with that phrase as well.
And you didn't find it?
I did not.
All right, I just want to throw a couple pictures up to ask if these are part of your report. Defense 700 is a picture that you examined.
It is.
All right, that appeared to be a Toyota dashboard.
It does. I hadn't noticed that before, but yes, it does.
And defendant 503, that a picture that you examined and recovered.
It is.
You're familiar with something called Facebook?
Yes.
And were you able to, oh, I'm sorry, are you familiar with something called Instagram?
Yes.
All right. And were you able to, was one of the things that Magnet and Encase pulled off of Mr. Copenhaver's devices, posts from Instagram?
I don't remember. I would have to look at the report.
Okay, here's 695, we're offering 695, I believe we did this at bench.
Right, it was already admitted by stipulation.
Just making sure before I published it.
Yes.
Have you seen this?
I don't recall it.
All right. Could you read for me just the date on it?
February 7, 2014.
And without reading the whole thing, does it talk about garbage and grill and Girl Scout cookies?
It does.
And 696, this appears to be a picture of Mr. Copenhaver eating a, pardon me, a Girl Scout cookie.
It does indeed, with a little button that says I love Girl Scout cookies.
Okay. And do you have a specific memory if that was one of the pictures you can recall?
Yes, I found that.
All right. Here's another Instagram. This is 699. Can you tell me the date?
February 11, 2014.
And He'll be going on the Joe Rogan show tomorrow.
It says, don't miss me on the Joe Rogan podcast tomorrow. It's going to be a blast.
All right, I think that's enough of the pictures. Are you familiar with a program, I'm sorry, not a program, are you familiar with something called Google Plus?
Yes.
What is it?
The Google Plus is a service that Google provides that allows you to store a lot of things, among them photos and files.
Do you have a familiarity with Google Plus and its syncing with the cloud?
Yes, I do.
Do you know what something called an Android device is?
Yes.
What is it?
An Android device, there are a lot of cell phones that are based on the Android operating system, which was developed by Google and given away free to phone manufacturers. It also is on a lot of tablets, Android tablets like a Samsung tablet and so forth.
And are you familiar with whether pictures on an Android phone with Google software automatically sync to the cloud to be available for the Google Plus account?
Yes, as long as you have it set up that way.
Okay. And if you switch phones, do the photographs remain in the cloud?
They do.
Is there a way to have a hidden folder on an Android device that doesn't sync with Google?
Yes.
How do you do that?
Well, you tell the Android not to sync that folder.
All right, and if in fact the folder has been synced with Google Plus and with the Android and put the pictures up in the cloud, are the pictures going to remain there?
They should.
Even on a new device?
Yes, even on a new device.
Okay, and even if the,
I'm sorry, would you ask me that question? Because I want to be sure I'm
Okay.
answering the right question.
if you switch devices,
Yes.
if you get a new phone, for example, those pictures, once synced, are going to be up there?
Yes, and if you set your new phone to sync, they'll sync to your new phone.
And does this include even if your old phone was, instead of just switching one out for the other, if the old phone was smashed?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Okay, let me start with some of the preliminary questions before we get into the examination that you did. So you're from, what part of California did you say?
Santa Maria.
Okay. And you said part of your business is working in the field of expert testimony.
Yes, it's part of computer forensics. As part of my job, I testify in court.
And how many times have you testified in the Nevada court?
In Nevada court? Only once or twice.
Do you normally do criminal type cases or civil?
I do both, and military, and labor board.
Okay, so in the criminal field, how many cases do you think you've testified?
Specifically in the criminal field or overall?
No criminal.
Oh, I don't know. 6 or 8 probably.
And in how many of those did you testify on behalf of the prosecution?
I don't know. I haven't. I would have to go back and check things out. Sometimes on the side of the prosecution, sometimes on the side of the defense. Same with military cases, which is the equivalent of criminal. Sometimes I'm working on behalf of the government. Sometimes I'm working on behalf of the defendant.
But you don't know those numbers in regards to criminal?
I don't know the ratio.
When you came to Nevada, were those for criminal cases?
I've come to Nevada for 3 cases. This one, another criminal one, where I went to Las Vegas PD to image a phone, and I think the third one was civil. I don't remember.
Okay, and then so do you have a fee schedule in regards to how much it costs to review materials or perform your analysis, write a report, etc.?
Yes,
Okay, can you explain that fee schedule, please?
sure. I charge $360 an hour for the kind of work you just said.
Okay, no matter what it is, whether it's testifying or reviewing?
I'm sorry, no, for reviewing the data, for doing the examination, for the stuff that's not related to court, I charge $360 an hour. For court, I charge $425 an hour. For travel, I charge half rate plus some mileage.
Okay, so what are we at here total with this case?
So far in this case, I've been paid about $3,000. I'm going to be, billing for the last couple of days sometime soon.
So it'll be approximately total,
I think about $9,000.
okay? And I want to talk about, because we talked about multiple devices, and you said you did one cell phone and one laptop.
That's correct.
Is that correct? Okay. So in regards to the cell phone, when did you get that cell phone in your possession?
I don't have the date in front of me, but it was maybe a month ago, maybe? I'm not sure.
Okay. So the first time you were ever able to access the defendant's cell phone would have been approximately a month ago?
I'm really guessing at the date, so I shouldn't guess at the date. It wasn't that long ago. It wasn't yesterday.
Was it in 2017?
Yes.
Okay, that's fair, right? So this crime that you're here, well, you're not here to talk about any crime, but the incident that we're here about predominantly occurred on August 8th of 2014. So you had no access to that phone in 2014, 2015, or 2016.
Just in 2017.
So you have no idea what could have been added, deleted, anything done to that device in those years.
I don't know when the device came into existence necessarily. iPhone 4, I could figure it out, but I just know the data that's on it once I get it.
Well,
Some of which dates back to those dates.
Yeah, because some of the text messages I think are from 2013 that you were able to work with.
That's correct.
But my question is you have no idea what happened between the day you had, the day the crime took place and when it came into your possession about a month ago.
I can just tell you based on getting the phone in my hand in 2017.
Okay. And then in regards to a second cell phone, you were able to travel to Las Vegas and go to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department lab and view a second phone. Is that correct?
Not related to this case. That was a different case.
But in this case, for Mr. Sua, you traveled here to our lab and did an image of the defendant's first cell phone.
I may be confusing.
That's okay.
I guess I didn't realize that was part of this case.
No, that's okay, and I didn't mean to confuse you, but I think we'll both stipulate that that was for our case.
Okay.
So when you were saying earlier you traveled to LVPD, meaning Las Vegas Police Department,
Yes.
to do a mirror image of a cell phone.
Yes.
That was for this case.
Okay.
That's okay, not a problem.
I don't always know who the parties in the case are. I just know who I'm working with.
Okay, that's,
So stipulated.
okay, thank you. And again, that, I believe that traveling was done, and I think we had earlier testimony in about a year ago, January of 2016.
So it was about a year ago.
So again, you have no idea from August 8th of 2014 until that came into the possession of the defense attorneys, what could have been done to it.
I can only tell you how it was when I got it.
And the same thing with the laptop. You received the laptop about a month ago, is that right?
Yes.
When you went to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, were there certain safety procedures that they use in order to access iPhones?
Yeah, well, yes and no. I mean, they store the phone in what's called a Faraday bag, which keeps outside interference, it keeps it from getting messages and so forth. And then they put it into airplane mode.
Okay. And then do you have a Faraday bag or box? What do you do?
When I received the phone, I immediately put it into airplane mode, and then there are a series of settings that need to be changed on the phone. It needs to put into debug mode,
Okay.
for instance.
So why would the police use a Faraday box or bag? She says box, you say bag, so I'm not sure what to say.
They're more or less the same thing. In either case, the phone ends up coming out of the bag and turned on. That's how they did it there as well.
Okay.
And turn on and then immediately put into airplane mode.
Now, in regards to the laptop, because of the way it was set up, you you had to boot it up in order to do your analysis.
That's correct.
And that's not normally what your preference is to do.
It is not my preference.
The dates on the side of the pictures, like if I could just use this for an example, which is Defenses 697, pull these out for you. And it'll say image 1235 up top. Let me zoom in for you, sorry.
Mhm.
And then it says it has a timestamp and a date. Can you explain to me the significance of that timestamp and date, please?
That is likely to be the day that it arrived on the phone, presumably the day it was taken, if that's the day it was taken. I actually found these photos on the laptop and found dates associated with them.
So how can you decide or decipher that that's the date the picture was actually taken versus the date that whoever was at the computer saved it?
So it's, one can go into the photo and extract other data from what's called EXIF, which is EXIF, which is kind of metadata. And most of these, and it would tell the creation date and the name of the camera. Most of the ones I looked at didn't have the name of the camera. So this is the best date that we can have. This is the earliest date, the best date that we have for when this photo was taken.
But you can't say that that's when the photo was taken.
With this specific image, or the other specific images, what I would do is I would look at the resolution of the photo and form an opinion about whether or not it was something that was, say, uploaded or downloaded to the phone or received as a message. I didn't do that analysis in this case.
Okay, so you don't know when these pictures were taken. You cannot be sure. You don't have a reasonable degree of certainty to be able to date every picture. You're doing the best that you can.
I have the creation dates that the operating system has for them.
Okay. So if I took a picture and sent it with my cell phone, and then the other person didn't open it or saved it to their computer on a different date, would you know for sure which date that I sent it?
It would depend on the date that you sent it or the date that you took it.
The date that I took it, sorry.
It would depend on the resolution of the image that you sent. So if you sent it in a lower resolution, so it would not use as much bandwidth, the original date might not be on the file. If you sent it in full resolution, the original date should be embedded in the file.
Full resolution, what do you mean when you use that term?
So when, I know with my phone and with some other kinds of phones, if you message a photo, it asks, do you want to send an actual size or a smaller size? So, the photo might be, 1,500 kilobytes in size, but to save bandwidth, you might send it as a 32 kilobyte image and then it will send faster, but it won't contain all the full image, all of the data of the image. So, for instance, if you were to blow up a full resolution image like this size, it would probably still look pretty good. If you were to blow up a 32 kilobyte image this size, it would be all out of focus.
And just for the record, he's doing about like 12 by 12 inches. We have to just make a record when you use hand marks. Would that be fair?
Sure.
Okay. Now, when I send photos via email, it asks me those questions, actual size. When I send them from my phone, it doesn't ask me that question.
Okay, mine does.
Oh, what's yours?
It's an iPhone 6S.
Okay, so is mine.
6
So why
Plus.
is mine not doing that?
I don't know.
Okay. So it would have to ask me that question, whether actual or smaller or medium, and send it in order for you to be able to use that to get that information?
No, it depends on the resolution of the photo that's received.
Okay. And does that happen with Androids as well?
In some cases, it will send it full resolution. In other cases, it won't. It would depend on the situation. I'd have to look at it in a given situation.
Okay. Now, you didn't only look at pictures, you also were able to recover like text messages and emails, etc.
That's correct.
Now, with your technology, are you able to see if text messages are deleted and recover them?
I can recover text messages that have not become overwritten since they were originally created.
Will they show you, though, that they were deleted?
Not necessarily.
Okay. But if something is permanently deleted and overwritten, you would have no way of knowing whether those ever existed. Is that fair?
If data has become overwritten and all of the data associated with that text has become overwritten, and if I could just explain to the jury, so when something's deleted, it doesn't go away. It just kind of gets de-indexed. But in time, something can write over that same space, and then it's not there anymore. It's completely gone. Although there might be a record of it someplace.
So there's a bunch of text messages on your phone. You delete them, and then your phone has to make more space, and they get overridden. You can't access those anymore. Is that correct?
That's partially correct.
Okay.
When you delete the text messages, they may become overwritten. To date, I don't know of any kind of algorithm that predicts whether or not a specific text or whatever will become overwritten. It may become overwritten in time, and it may persist for years.
So if there were text messages from the day of the incident, like August 8th, and they're not in your report or in the state's expert report, how would those been permanently deleted?
I'm sorry, would you ask me the last part of that question again?
So the incident date, one of the incident dates in this case is August 8th of 2014. If the defendant sent text messages on August 8th, but they are not in your report, they're not in the state's expert's report, they must have been permanently deleted?
If a message was sent, so let me restate this to make sure I'm explaining it correctly. So if a message was sent on August 8th and neither the state nor I found it, then it must have become overwritten. Is that your question?
Yes.
That would be accurate.
So it would have been deleted and overwritten.
Yes. It not necessarily deleted by the user, but yes.
So I'm going to show you what's already in evidence from the defendant's phone to the victim's mother, which is States 95. The defendant writes, check on Christy ASAP. She doesn't have her phone. Go to her house and check on her. The cops already came. Now, did you ever come across these messages when you were looking at your forensic report?
I didn't look for any of that text, so I didn't see this.
What exhibit number was that?
That is States 95.
And for the record, that's not the defendant's phone.
This is Ms. McAfee's phone from the defendant.
Right.
Right, the picture wasn't taken on his phone.
No, I'm sorry, I'm not saying, I'm saying that in States 95, these are messages from the defendant's phone. That's his name, that's his number. And so this is just a snapshot of the mother's phone where the text messages were sent from the defendant's phone. I'm sorry, I didn't make that clear.
So, and this is something that both parties agreed is a text from Mr. Copenhaver to, what I see here is just text. That doesn't tell me, I mean, the fact that it says this person's name and phone number at the top, I didn't look at them myself. I could do this in Word, but, so I'm just saying, I didn't look for these words or these phrases on the phone or the laptop, so I don't know if they existed or at any time, or even if this is text, actual text.
You didn't look for the word Christy?
No, I looked for the phrase Christy Mack.
And no, the phrase Christy wouldn't come up with, like, you know, when I do a control find on my computer and if I put Christy Mack, anytime it said Christy, it would come up. Does that not do that in your?
No, if I were to look for Christy, all the Christy Macks would come up, but if I look for Christy Mack, Christy is not a subset of Christy Mack. That's a phrase all by itself.
So you don't know if these, basically you're saying is you don't remember seeing these text messages?
I didn't look for them, so I don't remember seeing them. I don't think I did.
Okay. If this is a true and accurate depiction, and I mean, I don't know if the defense would be willing to stipulate that these text messages were not found in any report, so they would have had to have been deleted and overwritten if they did exist.
I didn't look for them, so I have no idea if they're on there or not.
Did the report include all text messages on the phone or just the ones you searched for?
Oh, so there were two different searches I did. Are you speaking specifically about searches on the phone?
Yes.
Okay, so I reviewed the report and I sent it off to the attorneys. I didn't review every section of the report, I produced it. And while I did look through the results of the texts, I didn't look for any of those phrases. I didn't
Okay.
look for Christy Mack,
So you didn't-
Christy, for instance.
You, only on the computer you looked for keywords?
I looked through the report I produced from the phone using IEF. I looked through the text there for several of the keywords. For a whole population of keywords, I looked through the laptop, the entire laptop.
And so I guess what I'm asking you is if what I'm representing to you is true though. So as an officer of the court, if what I'm representing to you is true, is that these messages were not in any report. If they did in fact come from the defendant, would they have had to have been deleted and overwritten?
Wow, that's a lot of if. I don't quite know how to answer that. I never saw those, and so I don't know the status of them on any device.
I'll try to make it as easier as possible. If these aren't on the report, if they can be found nowhere and they really did exist, then they would have had to have been deleted and overwritten.
If there were texts such as those that were created on the phone and were subsequently deleted and were not found in the report, then they must have become overwritten over time.
Thank you. And then I just wanted to approach with states 201 through 207. And I didn't know if you took these photos.
I didn't take the photos.
Did you take any photos of emails on either phone?
Taking photos on other phones. I sent a whole population of photos that existed, but I didn't specifically take photos of given text or email.
Okay, just court's indulgence then. Judge, at this time, we're going to stipulate to the evidence states proposed 201 through 207.
There's no objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
They're admitted, 201 to 207.
And then just some questions in regards to the Google Plus. So if you take pictures and you don't sync to the cloud or whatever terminology you'd like to use, and then your phone gets stolen, you are trying to sync it, you attempt to try to do a sync and it doesn't work, you have to get a new phone. Does that cause issues with whether or not you can recover those photos that were on your original phone that was stolen?
So that's kind of a multifaceted question. So let me ask you in return to see if I'm answering the right question.
Sure.
If my phone has photos on it and I haven't synced those phones to Google Plus, and it gets stolen, and then I get a new phone, you're asking me if the old phone gets, if I get the old phone back?
No, if you never would be able to recover the old phone, and you have to, not start up a new phone, but you begin to utilize a brand new phone, you never recover the old one.
So I've got an old phone, I've never synced any of the stuff to the cloud, so none of the photos on that phone are in the cloud.
I'm not saying none of them, I'm just saying some of them haven't been synced.
So the photos that haven't been synced, I would think would be lost to you.
Thank you so much. Nothing further, Judge.
Redirect?
Yes, 1 second. Okay, I just wanted to clear up one section. When you send a picture, actually I want to clear up several sections, but clear up one.
And
First,
could I clarify one thing too? On those photos, I didn't look for any of the Instagram things. I just looked for the photos and just want to let you know that.
sure. You talked about sending a picture actual size versus small, medium, or large on an iPhone.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to flash you something real quick, and this is on an email. On an email.
Or demonstrative evidence?
Yeah.
That's fine, I don't have any objection to
This
that.
is my phone. It's a picture, and you can't really see it, but it says small, medium, large, actual size.
I see that.
Okay. Now that's on an email. Does it do the same thing on a text?
I would have to try it on an Android. With an iPhone, it doesn't.
Android to iPhone, you mean?
When I send a message from an iPhone, it doesn't ask me for the sizes.
Okay.
And I would have to double check on an Android.
Okay. But, all right. But you can send an email to a text address, and that would have various sizes of an image.
That's correct. That's an
And in
option.
fact, if you screenshot an image, that would change the resolution.
Yes,
And if it was, for example, an image downloaded from the internet and then put into a text, that also might have any number of resolutions.
sure.
So what you're talking about in terms of original resolutions is a picture that was taken on that camera and sent intact.
That's
As
what
original.
That's what I'm referencing.
Okay. So I think we established that you examined 2 phones and a laptop in this case?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm a little embarrassed. I didn't realize that the other phone was that I looked at a year ago was in the same case.
So on that phone was in the possession of Metro, of Las Vegas PD.
Right.
Do you have any reason to believe that Las Vegas PD played around with or changed files on it?
It's not something I recall looking into.
Would your EnCase or magnet report show that?
Yes.
All right. So based on that, you have no reason to suspect that phone was tampered with?
I don't recall it being something I looked at. I haven't reviewed the evidence from that earlier phone in quite some time.
Okay. If the detective from the computer division testified that there was no trouble with file integrity, you would accept that?
Judge, I'm going to object Ms. State's testimony.
I'll withdraw.
Okay.
You testified about a text being sent, sort of the last text on the phone, or one of the last texts on the phone, being deleted and overwritten. Could that only happen if there is just a tiny bit of space in the unallocated clusters? Or would it still be in the unallocated clusters?
Right. So one of the things that can overwrite data is filling up the phone. It would overwrite deleted items.
Okay. So you would expect that if a last text was deleted, you would need more in the unallocated clusters to get that, in fact, wiped off of the phone.
Not sure I understand your question. Would you ask me again, please?
Okay. In terms of deleting items, is it correct that the oldest items are deleted from the unallocated clusters when the newest items come in and they sort of push them out?
No.
Okay. Explain to me how that works, please.
It's not particularly predictable where in the we can call it the physical structure, even though it's a logical structure. It's akin to a physical structure. So whether it's a phone or whether it's a computer hard drive, it's going to write to the next easily available space. With solid state storage, it's all easily available, so it could write any place. So when something is deleted, the oldest thing isn't necessarily the thing that's going to become overwritten by the next thing that comes along. It could be the newest thing. There isn't really a way to predict it.
All right, but you said on a solid state, for that an iOS device, an iPhone 4S.
Right, on any digital storage device.
Okay. And what would you expect the likelihood is of a deleted text, 2 days before the phone stopped being used to be fully deleted from an iOS from the unallocated clusters by overwriting?
Excuse me. The longer a phone is used after data is deleted, the more likely it is that the older data will become overwritten because it's had that many more chances. By the same logic, the more recently a file is deleted, the fewer options the operating system will have to overwrite it, so the less likely it will be to become overwritten. And it's kind of random.
Okay. Are you able to quantify like the idea that a text would be sent and then 2 days later it would be overwritten and gone from the unallocated clusters, like the shock, if you're able to do the shock being 1 in a million and a billion and a trillion?
I couldn't come up with that number.
All right. Now, you talked earlier about date stamps and times. You've shown a picture like this.
Exhibit number?
Exhibit number 697. Would that reflect the earliest date that the picture was on the device that you're looking at?
Could I ask if this picture is from the laptop or from the phone?
Laptop.
Okay, I can tell you the earliest date I'm looking on a note that I have on my phone.
Okay, on this specific image?
Yes. I think so, yes.
Okay. Go right ahead.
February 8, 2014.
At 5:08 and
I didn't,
21 seconds?
I didn't note the time.
All right.
I did that for a number of photos.
Okay. And with respect to the photo, I believe you testified that you didn't look whether they were the original photo or, some other permutation, like, for example, a screenshot or, something generations down or from the internet or what have you?
I didn't.
Okay. So meaning that this photo could be from a different date, but the date that it arrived on the device is in fact going to be this date.
That's possible.
All right. You testified on direct with respect to this message, or this type of message. And I believe you said you can do this in Word.
Oh, I could create a document like this in any number of different kind of word processing programs or paint programs or what have you. So just looking at this, I don't know that this is a text. Just looking at this, there's words and that could be created in some other fashion.
All right, and without knowing the metadata behind it, it's impossible to tell.
Well, I'm just looking at a picture, not an electronic file, so.
I understand.
Yeah.
So you don't have the electronic data.
Correct.
And you can create a picture like this with text in it in any number of programs, including Microsoft Word.
Yes.
Nothing further.
Because
Just fine. So I'm showing you states 97. We already had testimony that, and I'm going to approach this case 97. I took this photo of this cell phone. You can see the table in the background.
Yes, I do.
So, do you have a reason to disbelieve that this is a phone that I'm taking a photo of?
I don't have a reason to disbelieve this, and I certainly don't make you out to be a liar.
Oh, I don't think you are. I don't think you are.
I'm just saying, when I'm looking at a photo, I can't determine its authenticity.
Okay. But nothing about this photo suggests to you that this is doctored or anything like that?
It looks like a photo of a phone.
Okay, thank you. Nothing.
anything further?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're all done, sir.
Come on up, please.
Your Honor, if it pleases the court, the defense rests its case.
Okay, thank you very much. So, State, do you have a witness? We had talked earlier, ladies and gentlemen, about a doctor who wasn't available earlier in this week. This week, so State is now
Yes,
calling.
he is available, Judge, and he is here. His name is Dr. James Walker.
Okay, let's get him.
Good, step up into the box, remain standing. Raise your right hand, face that gentleman right there for me.
Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give this actually the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Thank you. You may be seated. You state your complete name, spelling both your first and last name for the record.
James Thomas Walker, JamesWalker.
May I proceed, Judge?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sir, make sure you speak up into the mic over there so we get a good record. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Dr. Walker. How are you employed?
I'm employed by Team Health as an emergency room physician,
Okay. And how long have you been a physician?
including residency,
Yes.
9 years.
Can you discuss the type of medicine it is that you practice?
Anything that is considered an emergency. So
Okay.
anything from a simple cut to someone in cardiac arrest.
Okay. And you are so soft-spoken. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, no.
It's my nature.
We're used to yelling at each other in here, and you're probably not as used to it. That little black thing in front of you is a microphone, so if you could just do your best to keep your voice up, and then it'll pick it up. Okay?
All right.
Thank you. What hospitals are you contracted with?
Sunrise, Mountain View, and Southern Hills.
Okay. And can you explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury your training and education that allowed you to have the position that you do have?
Sure. So I went to medical school at Western in Southern California for 4 years. And then it's 4 more years of residency after that. It's just, in residency you do surgery, neurosurgery, trauma, internal medicine, then emergency medicine, family medicine. They'll do everything your first couple of years, then you focus in on just simply your profession, which is emergency medicine, your last 2 years.
Okay, so then you did your emergency, you did your specialization for 2 years.
It's 4, but you have, your first year is just a general internship,
Okay,
where you do everything, and then your last 3 years are focused specifically on emergency medicine.
okay. And then do you have to pass like clinical boards, or what do you have to do?
There's a step 1, 2, and 3 that you take during medical school. Steps 1 and 2 are during medical school. Step 3 is during your first year residency. And then you have in-training exams that you're required to take during residency, and then after that you apply to become board certified. And you, there's a lot of steps to it, but in the end I'm board certified.
Okay. So I'd like to ask you some specific questions about the morning hours of August 8th, 2014. Were you working in the emergency room at Sunrise Hospital then?
Yes, I was.
And were you working in the emergency department? Is that a yes?
Yes.
All right. Now, did you treat an individual by the name of Christine Mackenday?
Yes.
And was she admitted into the intensive care unit?
Yes.
When you first encountered her, can you describe her condition and injuries, please?
Sure. She was pretty beat up. She was a very swollen left eye. I think it was swollen shut. Significant swelling to her lips. She was ecchymotic on her left eye already.
What does ecchymotic mean?
Bruising. She had, I had a prior eye open. She had a scleral hemorrhage, which is blood in the white part of your eye. She had a significant bruise to her left thigh.
Okay.
She had a lot of tenderness to her right upper quadrant in her right flank, and a large bruise on her right flank.
Where, I think I know where the flank is, but could you explain
So
it to
this
me?
right upper quadrant is right here,
Okay.
and then flank is there.
All right, Your Honor, for the record, he pointed to his right side, like at kind of at the, I don't know, top of your ribs. Well, no,
Yeah,
because your ribs go all the
bottom
way
of
up,
the
right?
ribs.
Bottom of the ribs, and that's why I went to law school.
And so it's on the side and toward the back?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And was there quite a bit of swelling to her face in multiple areas?
Yes, there was.
Did you see in your notes whether or not she was given morphine?
She was. I believe it was, I think 4:58 was the documented time.
Okay, and if you are given morphine, and when you, is your blood tested at some point after you get to the hospital?
For morphine?
No, sorry, for just in general, do you do a blood draw at the hospital?
For what specifically?
Just to see if there's anything in the blood.
It's a urine tox screen.
Oh, I apologize, I was thinking that it was a blood draw. So the tox is done by urine? Is that a yes?
Yes.
And her lab results show positive for opiates, is that correct?
Correct.
And would that be abnormal since she was given morphine?
Nope, it's normal. The urine was drawn at, or collected at 7:14.
So that would all make sense to you?
Yep, normal.
Thank you. Now, in regards to your analysis or your treatment, there's certain information taken that's referred to as assault data. Is that correct?
Sure.
And in your notations, you stated that Ms. McInday had stated that this incident had happened to her on the day in question.
Correct.
And did she also discuss that the attack was sudden and constant?
Yes.
And that she was assaulted with both fists and kicks?
Yes.
And you discussed her injuries, and so I just want to show you States 103. Is this Ms. McInday?
Yes.
And you stated that her left eye, which is right here, was already bruised, and you can kind of see the bruise in the picture, and that it was swollen completely shut. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes, sorry.
Sorry, we just have to do that for the transcription. And then her left eye, it wasn't quite swollen shut, but
Or
was it
which eye?
her right eye? Sorry, this one. Her right eye. Did that one have some swelling as well?
I didn't document that. I documented that she had a scleral hemorrhage on that eye as well, which again is the blood in the white part of the eye. And swollen shut, I mean, she could not open it under her own power. She could open her right eye.
Did you notate that Ms. McInday had lacerations to her head?
Dr. Fisher did. I did not see that in my note.
Oh, okay. I'm just gonna zoom in for you.
What
And-
exhibit?
Sorry. States 107. And you see this line going across the head. Would that be consistent with what it can be referred to as a laceration?
Yes.
In regards to the injuries to her mouth, that I'm showing you States 110, and I'm gonna have to zoom out for you. What were any injuries in there?
So she had a fracture at one of the canines and then an avulsion of the other tooth.
What does an avulsion mean?
It's gone,
Gone.
removed.
Now, you talked about a contusion to her leg.
Yes.
Showing you States 107. Would that be the left leg that we're seeing
Yes.
the bruise to in this picture?
Yes.
And then, I apologize, I don't remember, when you said to the flank, it was to the right flank, is that correct?
Correct.
And you said that did you say that it was red or that there was bruising? What did you say?
In my note, I documented that there was inflammation, swelling,
In the rib area and into
actually
the flank?
towards the back.
In regards to broken bones, fractures, can you go through whether or not Ms. McInday suffered from any fractures?
She had a blowout fracture, so your orbit has 7 bones. I'm not an anatomist, but it's been a long time, but I believe it has 7 bones that make up the orbit. And then she had a blowout fracture, so it's really the floor of the orbit was broken.
And that was to the left eye?
Left eye, correct.
And in your notes, you notated the inferior rectus muscle appears tethered by the fragments.
So
What's
that was the radiologist that wrote that. So your eye rotates based on the muscles in the eye, and so in order for you to look down or out or up and in, the eye has to rotate. So the rectus muscles will pull it, and the radiologist thought on the CAT scan that muscle had been injured.
And that when they say tethered, that the fragments are...
Well, I think he meant that the muscle was in fragments or pieces.
Okay. Now, was there also multiple nasal bone fractures?
Multiple nasal bone fractures, and she had a vomer fracture, which is a bone deeper. A vomer fracture, V-O-M-E-R. It's deeper within the face.
So she had 2 nasal fractures, is that correct?
Huh?
And then
Yes.
and a broken vomer, so 3 in that area.
Yes.
And do you remember speaking to Ms. McInday about, kind of informing her how many bones there were broken in her face?
I do. I I told her initially, I think there were, I don't know, 15 or 18, I don't remember what I told her, but I was, at the time, I think I thought that she had fractured the entire orbit, meaning every bone in the orbit. And because she had teeth avulsions, I thought she would have maxillary fractures, that's the bone up here.
Okay.
I thought that would have been fractured, and then other facial bones.
Okay.
But, you know, hindsight's 20/20, it didn't happen.
But I mean, she did her blowout fracture. I mean, it's when we talk about blowout fracture, it's fragmented into tons of pieces, correct?
Several pieces, yeah.
Now, in regards to, did she have also what's referred to as a lacerated liver?
She did have a, yes.
And what was the grade of that liver?
It's a grade 3 intraparenchymal.
And how many?
I'm sorry.
It's a grade 3 intraparenchymal.
Right.
And what does that mean?
Okay, so the solid organs within the body, really your spleen and your liver, have what's called a capsule. So there's a connective tissue that surrounds them. And so if something's intraparenchymal, it's within the tissue itself. If it's subscapular, it's bleeding so much that it spreads into the capsule and spreads all around the liver. Hers was, I think, the right hepatic lobe and just was contained within the liver tissue itself.
And how many grades are there of liver?
5,
And is 5 the worst?
yep, yes.
There was also in the medical records, it stated that there was a large amount of blood in the urine. What does that mean, or what can that signify?
Well, so initially I actually thought that she was going to have a kidney laceration because of the trauma she had sustained to the flank and the blood in the urine. And so that's really what prompted the CAT scan. I was surprised.
Produce blood in your urine?
Yes, but it has to be to the kidney though.
So why would there be such a large amount of blood in her urine?
I'm not sure. Not sure. She could have had some underlying, you know, microscopic damage. It wasn't significant.
Okay. And because of the, like you were just explaining, the inflammation or the redness that you were seeing into the flank and that was wrapping around, did you also suspect or think that perhaps that her ribs were fractured?
Yes.
Now, I imagine working in the emergency room in Las Vegas, you see a lot of pretty bad things.
Every day.
But also people come in with things, like you said, like a sliver or, you know, things that were probably not emergency room type material. Is that fair?
Yes.
In your training and experience, is there any way at all to tell how many times Miss McInday was hit?
No.
Are there so many variables that have to be considered that you would not ever be able to opine on that?
I don't know any objective way that you could determine that.
I mean, you could say, you know, that she was at least hit once, right?
Sure, you could say that.
But beyond once, would there be any way for you to tell?
No.
What about in regards to the injury to the leg? Would there be any way for you to tell if she was, you know, kicked once, twice, 3 times?
No.
And is it your testimony that basically that would be impossible to do?
Yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Pass the witness.
Cross.
Thank you. With respect to the facial fractures, there was one you said was orbital blowout.
Yes, sir.
And what in your experience as an ER doctor, what do orbital blowouts typically come from?
Direct blow to the face.
To the what part of the face?
Well, to the orbit.
To the cheek?
Yeah.
The upper cheek?
Well, a blowout fracture, yeah, well, just doesn't have to be to the cheek, it just has to be to the orbit. You could be hit above and it could still give you a blowout fracture.
Did you see evidence of a blow to the cheek in examining Ms. McInday?
Based on the amount of swelling, yes.
And then there was a broken nose and missing teeth.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, backing up, the blow to the cheek, could that be consistent with one punch? The orbital blowout?
Good.
And then the nasal fractures and the swollen lip, the displaced tooth, the fractured teeth, would that be consistent with one punch to the center nose area?
Yes.
And did you see any other indications on the face that there was a third punch to a different area?
I couldn't make that determination. And she was swollen on that whole left side and a little bit on the right.
Did you follow up and look at the x-ray films?
After they were done?
Yes.
Yes.
And what did you note?
Well, I'm not a radiologist. I can look at them, I can see obvious fractures, but I depend on the radiologist to read them. I go out their reads. That's not my training.
Okay. Did you note any other fractures than the one in the middle region and then the orbital blowout?
No.
So that could well be consistent with 2 punches?
Good.
And if those areas were continually hit, you would expect the damage to be much more significant than what you saw?
Perhaps. I mean, it's a blowout fracture. I mean, it's a fracture is a fracture.
Yeah, yes, but if you keep hitting the fracture, it gets worse.
Maybe, but if you already impacted it and pushed it in and made it mush, I don't know that you're going to make that worse. What's done is done. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
It does, but there are severe orbital fractures that actually push the cheek or the upper eye up to the point where the eye pops out, correct?
Well, you need a retrobulbar hematoma for that. Well, it doesn't push it out, but you get what's called a retrobulbar hematoma, which is a blood clot behind the eye. And the eye comes out because you have to cut the ligament that holds the eye in place to relieve the pressure so they don't lose their eyesight.
And was that the case here?
No.
And how many bones in the face were broken in the final analysis?
Let's see, it should be 4. I think 4.
And you learned also that ribs were not broken
That is correct.
and that a kidney was not lacerated.
That is correct.
And the grade 3 lacerated liver can come from a single punch or a single kick.
I don't think it could come from a punch. When you see a lacerated solid organ injury, that is a significant force. This
So,
is the
like a kick?
Yeah, this is the first time in my career I've actually not seen one in a car accident. You see them in car accidents with tremendous force involved, and this is the first time I've seen one with, outside of that context.
Do you have training in maxillofacial surgery?
No, sir.
Do you have training in dentistry?
No, sir. What do you mean by training?
Did you do a residency in
No.
maxillofacial?
Now, if a tooth falls out, we put it back in and call them.
And that would be the on-call doctor at Sunrise?
The oral maxillofacial surgeon? Yes.
You ever hear of a guy named Dr. Stephen Sachs?
Yes.
He considered a competent, good doctor.
Those guys are good at what they do. It's a lot of training.
Nothing further.
Redirect.
In regards to the lacerated liver, you said that the only time you had ever seen that in your career was through a car accident.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
The amount of force necessary to create that type of injury is a large amount of force, I would imagine.
Yes.
Now, in regards to, and just tell me if this is something that you can answer, is it more likely that can that be one kick, or do you need force from multiple kicks? Is there one more likely than the other?
One kick could do it, I suppose. It'd be a heck of a kick.
With each kick added to that, does it greaten the exposure to the liver, or it just is a matter of
It's
force?
just a matter of force.
So same thing with the face, it's possible that it was 2.
Possible.
possible that it was 20.
Yes.
It's just something that as medical professionals you can't do.
Nope.
Okay, nothing further, thank you.
Chief Ross?
Nothing, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thanks, Doctor.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming out. Come on up a sec. State, do you have anything else?
No, Your Honor, we appreciate the defense allowing us to call that witness out of order.
Okay, and so you are, I guess, resting again?
Yes, we re-rest.
Okay, we're done with evidence, right, guys?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, other than a couple issues we've talked about as possibilities. Okay. So, folks, we are done for the day. We're gonna have you guys come back at 10 tomorrow morning. At that time, I'll be reading the jury instructions to you, and we'll have closing arguments, all right? So, between now and 10 tomorrow morning, you are admonished not to talk or converse among yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected with this trial, or to read, watch, or listen to any report of or commentary on the trial, or any person connected with this trial by any medium of